Hey everybody, and welcome to He Said, She Said, They Said, a real discussion on real estate with Andrew Plank and Jane Johnston. Jane Johnston is on vacation, so it's just going to be me today. We're going to talk through the monthly stats really briefly, and then call it a short one today. So hopefully you guys are ready to go for this. So usually Jane asks me how my week has been, and I ask her how her week has been and what's going on. And it's an interesting time. There's been a lot of. I was going to put this in the stats, but in the chat. Let me just find it. I'm going to recommend people have a look at the blog from House Hunt Victoria. Leo's latest talks about some changes he's noticing in the marketplace, mostly to do with the fact that we're seeing a little bit of heat off, and I'm seeing that too with my colleagues in the chatter and what's happening in my own business. That being said, I kind of disagree a little bit with what he's suggesting, that maybe this is moving towards the end of things. Not that I think he's exactly saying that, but feels like we still have a lot of upward pressure. And even if there's going to be a lot of interest rate hikes and some new changes in rules and regulations, substantially and fundamentally, we still have a lot of people looking for homes. As he even mentions, there's kind of 10 buyers for every home on the market. A real driver of the market is consumer confidence. And I find as people change their ideas of what's going to happen, confidence levels change as well. And I've observed every spring when we see more inventory, and I usually advise clients that we're going to see more inventory, now's a good time to buy. And invariably, people also see more inventory and think, okay, well, this is maybe a sign of things to come, and we're going to forever have now more inventory as time goes on. So don't see that happening. I expect we're going to see another sparse summer for inventory, and then prices will continue to rise. I do see it not being as busy as it has been. So that's kind of my prediction. And now I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not a financial expert in that. I'm just sharing my observations. So take that as you will. But check out Leo's blog. It's very full of stats, much more full of stats than we do. And even though we have some stats, his is really full. So let's talk a little bit about the market. I actually wanted to say a couple of things about house values and what I've been seeing, because there's been a lot of talk about, realtors setting the market prices and so forth, and how our price is set. So hopefully this works. I want to go a little bit into some slides here and talk about some concepts that buyers and sellers should probably sort of have in the back of their mind when they're coming up with their pricing. So let's just have a look, see if this works here. Yeah. Okay, I'm actually going to go on to a different slide. Back to my PowerPoint. There we are. So let's start with this. Pricing values. Oh, I think we have the wrong slide running. So let me just change that up to the share screen. Apologies, guys. I want to share a different screen. And, oh yeah, no, that is the right one. But for some reason that was pulling over into the other. Let's get that out of your way, and then you're not being blocked. It's not a he said, she said, they said if we don't have some technical difficulties. So, values in the eye of the beholder. Every buyer is going to see the house differently. Every seller is going to value their home differently. The same home, different sellers will have different motivations. All the same home on the same block could sell for different prices, or at least be of different values, partly because of how it was cared for, partly because of, the motivations of the sellers and many other factors. So let's just look into this a little bit more deeply. So as I said, values in the eye of the beholder, and this is kind of a funny slide where we've got, different types of people are going to see the same home that I showed on the last slide from a different perspective, and their eyes are going to see it differently. But I want to drill in to say, how do the buyers see this home? And this is the key thing around pricing today is I want to share the idea of a scatter graph, because we're seeing so many multiple offers. A scatter graph is a graph that shows, when you've got enough data, it starts to show, where things tend to trend. Okay, so if we get multiple offers on a property, let's say, and sometimes there's 20 offers on a property. That's not as common now, but this helps to illustrate the point. There's 20 offers coming in on a property, and the property is listed at, let's say, $1 million. You're going to see if you were to graph out those offers that you were receiving, you'd see price points of maybe right around the $1 million point, maybe a little bit above, a little bit below. There'll be a number of the graph will have a thicker section of dots in that point. And then you'll find that maybe it was underpriced, and so those offers were the folks that were hopeful that they would get it at asking price, but then the actual comparable, the marketplace, everything that other folks have been seeing in the marketplace, they're going to be looking at what it's worth to them, and they're going to have a pretty good idea of what it's worth to them. And they're going to be looking also at other sales in the area and so forth. They're going to be offering a higher price point, and there'll be another clump of offers around there. And what every seller seems to be hoping for, and what seems to be happening here, is the buyer that's the outlier, and they're these folks up here at the top of the scatter graph, and they're the ones that are making these offers that we see, hundreds of thousands of dollars above asking price sometimes. Doesn't mean that the house is actually exactly worth that, but the buyer is maybe tired of looking for properties, has deeper pockets than some of the others, or just feels like in the future values are continuing to go up. They've projected things and they've said, I'm comfortable paying this, but they're going to be a little bit of an outlier. And the seller tends to take that. And unfortunately or fortunately, that now gives us a new piece of data, because the only piece of data that shows up in the property sales is the sale price. We don't get to see this scatter graph that tells us, where most of the buyers feel value is. And so we see this new sale, and this new sale then becomes a new benchmark for future buyers to try to leapfrog. And what we're seeing now, I think, is we're going to see coming up now and into the future, I think less of these outlier offers and more of, in the center graph. There'll still be some, but less. And so that will help to mitigate prices. And that's kind of what my observation is, or I'm seeing. And I'd love to hear what other people are seeing as well. Just going to make sure comments are on so I can see anybody commenting here. So let's get into the actual stats. And I want to talk again a little bit. This is the stats from March. And this one we don't usually talk too much about, but I want to just bring it to people's attention again, because you can look at this a little bit like a scatter graph as well, or a bar graph, when you look at prices. And this is more for looking at general prices in an area. So I've highlighted Oak Bay year to date, because there's more data in the year to date versus the month. And we've only, this is 3 months worth of data, and Langford year to date. And we've got price points along the left here, ranging from, $0 up to $4 million plus. And these run in increments. Most of these increments are around $50,000 increments, up and up and up. They start to get into $100,000 and $250,000 increments as you go higher, and even $1 million increments. But you can see here, Oak Bay, 4 sales above $1 million, 7 above, 7 between $3 million and $4 million, and 10 between $2.5 million and $3 million. And what's interesting is sort of, if you were to graph this out, have a bar graph, 4 across here, 7 across here, 10 across here, 4, 4, 9. You can kind of see where price points tend to range in these different areas. So you can see that a lot of the sales, there's very few sales under, under 1 point, let's say, well, really, they really start to happen around 1.75. And then there's another jump up to kind of the 2.5 million mark. And so you get a sense of, if you've got a house, you're probably going to be falling into sort of these niches of price point. And then there's a little niche down here for some probably really small, really rundown homes. And then again, there's a gap, and then you start here. More data is going to be in Langford here. So we can see, again, much less in the high price point, but you reach kind of a point here where you can see there's a number of sales kind of running in the 1.5 range, and this is going to be for some of the newer homes. And then you've got a range here where you kind of have, again, there's a bump in the graph, and you've got quite a few sales in around the 1.2, 1.3, 1.1. And then you've got another big point here, just under the million mark, where it kind of reaches a point where there is a certain reason for this. A lot of buyers can only pay up to $1 million because they have less than 20% down. So you start to see reasons why, and you can kind of look a little bit at this. So let's go into the actually what happened here and where are we at. So this is the sales to active listings ratio. This is a graph from March 2020. It comes through to March 2022. And what we're seeing here is still, although it's come down a little bit off the peak here at 120%, meaning 120% of properties that list are selling. How can you sell more than you're listing? Well, you're selling, there's a pool of properties already on market. So you're selling from that pool, but you've got more listings selling than are coming on market. A balanced market is actually more down in this range, where every month there's properties coming on market, but there's also properties that are overpriced that eventually expire. And, it's more of a regular paced market. So we're still way above this. And it would, I think, you can see some rise up really quickly. You can see some down really quickly, but this little part here kind of matches this part here. Maybe we're going to see some down a bit. That's over a period of about 6 months, though, 4 or 5 months. Coming up again, it's really hard to say what this little jog will tell us. It is telling us that they're a little bit off. We look at last February, we also February, March, we had the similar kind of event. And again, a similar kind of event. So we kind of start to see inventory start to go up again as we get a little bit, sales to active listings ratio go up a bit as we actually get into the March, April, May sort of after section. This one was down. So let's look at Market Watch. This is the last week, the last 7 days. We had 253 new listings. We had 253 new listings. We had 195 properties go pending. So this is where that graph behind us shows that we actually have, a bit of a decrease in the actual activity here. So 253, 195 pending, 26 price decreases. So people were actually decreasing prices. That's good news for the market. 5 price increases. 1 property came back on market. 16 properties actually expired unsold, and 4 properties were withdrawn from market. So this might be a little harder to see. Let's see if I can zoom in on this a bit. Yeah, we'll do that. So we've got total active MLS listings. So that ratio we showed before was based, one of the elements of that ratio was based on how many active listings there are versus how many are selling. The active listings this month are, they've been going up month over month as we hit March. And we find that generally speaking, again, in the spring, we find active listings rise as we hit May, June, July, August, and then people stop listing their home or let their properties expire. And so we'll see a drop off of inventory. And again, the trend tends to be this: the shape of the graph and the height of the graph tends to change year over year, but the natural trend tends to follow this kind of range. So what we're seeing here in March is probably going to see, again, more active listings as we come into April, May, June, and then probably some falling off. And you can't see my mouse as it goes off the page and starts to drop down. Oh, yeah, it's come across to the other side. Oh, you can't probably see my mouse anyway. Okay, so total new listings to total new sales. And again, we always talk about this. December tends to be a slow month. In the spring, we tend to see it rising up, and we're probably going to see follow a similar trend again as past years. So here we are in March. We look back to the other Marches. This was COVID, so this wasn't as representative, this one bar. But if you were correct that, you'd see kind of the similar trend here as you see here, and we will again probably see a similar trend here where we see more listings coming on. and then more sales start to drop off, actually. And so the inventory will rise over the next little while as well, but it will start to fall off again in the summer. And that, I believe, yeah, that is what I've got for you today. So I hope you enjoyed that. And if you have any questions, please always fire Jane or I a comment. Jane and I are both individual agents working independently. Jane is with the Briar Hill Group, and I'm going to put up her contact information in honor of Jane, who's on a beach somewhere, and deservedly so. So Jane Johnston, if you want to reach her, you can reach her at 250-744-0775. Email her briarhillgroup@gmail.com. She's got two websites, briarhillgroup.com and Vancouver Island Time. Our He Said, She Said, They Saids are hosted on Vancouver Island Time. They're hosted on my YouTube. You can watch them live on Facebook. Thanks again for tuning in. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at 250-360-6106. The email is info@andrewplank.com, or come to my website. There's a contact there. There's more information about the market and myself, andrewplank.com. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.